Hey guys, welcome back to CheatSheetPros.com. Today's December 1st, and we have a pretty good Monday Night Football game that we can do some props on. If you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, any of those, this is kind of the banner that I had posted with some of my favorite props. I'm going to walk through them with the cheat sheet. Typically for primetime games such as Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and I try to do Sunday night depending on how busy I am. I'll post a little banner like this with some of the plays and stuff that I like. So let's go ahead and dig in and take a look. So opening up the cheat sheet, we have our main tab if you're doing props, all that good stuff. We have our betting model scoreboard, which projects a score for every game. Our game logs, which does player props. Our advanced DVP stats, DVP or DFS stacks. And then our props tab over here. So if you're playing around, whatever you're doing, we kind of use a cheat sheet to put everything all in one. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this game. So this is the last game on the slate here. Our custom model that we have is going to be right here. So we're projecting this score 31-18. So Patriots easily covering the 7.5. So our projected line for this game should be Patriots minus 13. So this shows a difference of about 5.5 points. So if it's a difference of 3.5 to 4.5 points, it's going to show here what our model likes. So here you can see our model likes New England minus 7.5. So that's a good place to start. If you want to scroll over here, you can get a little bit more stats. Red zone and allowed red zone TD percentages. You can see here, if you like the over, I definitely see why. Both teams are giving up a lot of touchdowns. Once the team gets inside the red zone, Jackson Dart is returning. Over here, we have our first downs for the season and then last 3 games, so you can kind of get a difference. And then over here, we have our offensive yards, passing, rushing, defensive yards allowed, and all that good stuff. Now, the one thing that does jump out at me is the Giants here are dead last in rushing yards allowed per game. And on the season, they're allowing 5.9 yards per carry, which is asinine. And then even over the last 3 games, they're still dead last, but now they're allowing 7.5 yards per carry. So Travion Henderson could go freaking bananas tonight. So that's one of our top plays. So New England money line, that's a pretty fair bet. So what I'm going to do as I build these, I always flip over here and look at the line. So I typically try to find stuff from plus money, but I try not to go past minus 500 because typically a lot of props you have to stay under, or a lot of bonuses on DK, you have to stay under that minus 500 line. So for example, if the New England Patriots money line was minus 850, it's not even really worth putting in there. But minus 360, that's pretty fair. So we can start it off there. If you want to get into an alt line, you can do something like that. So I'll typically, like 7.5 is a tricky number. So if you drop it down to 6.5, you're going to get minus 140, which isn't bad. And then if you fall under the hook, 2.5, you get to 290. But for me, 290 to 360 really isn't worth the 2.5 point difference. I'd rather just take the 360 and take them to win. Now, if you're playing ultra safe and trying to invest a lot of money, then you can flip over here and take the plus 3.5 or plus 4.5 for New England. But again, you're going to lay a massive amount of odds. And for those, I don't like to do it. I like to stay in that, minus 110 to minus 350, kind of that range. I'll dabble in some minus 500s, but I try not to get there a lot. So for this one, if you want to build, let's do Patriots money line minus 360. So we're going to look at passing props, receiving props, rushing props, and we're going to take a look at those. So looking at passing props, Jackson Dart, you can see he's kind of all over the place. We've got 240, 280, and then 190, 190, 190, 202. Now, the one benefit here is he's coming off of a concussion. So my first inkling was Jackson Dart, rushing yards, 15 plus, 25 plus, but with him coming off of a concussion and New England having a very good rush defense, I don't think he's going to run as much, so that's one that scared me, so I did back off that and remove that from my play. So I would lean more to his passing yards. So when we go over here and we look at Jackson Dart passing yards, 200 minus 125, that's decent, but look at this, 190, 190, 190. He falls under there quite a bit, so if I want to do a same game parlay against a good defense, I want to dribble down here and look at some lower ones. But you can get any of these. So minus 150 at minus 550, that's a little higher than what we like. But 160 at 389, that's very fair. He should be able to get 160 passing yards. He's done that in every one of these games. And even against some of the good defenses, San Francisco, Philadelphia, 283 versus Denver, 202 versus the Saints. That should be a pretty fair pick if you want to put that one in there. And then I always look at what this is going to change to when you add something. So if we go from 160 to 170, it moves about 30 points, not a ton. So if we go up to 180, then it's down to 120. So that's a little better. So you can just kind of gauge like where you want to be. So for this one, I'm just going to say 160, puts us at minus 175. But again, we're going to add some other legs to it. My second favorite prop is Drake May passing yards. Now, the scary part about this is New England could blow them out, and Travion Henderson could rush for $150, which is really going to limit Drake May's passing yards. But we go over here, we look at the defensive stats up top. Now you can see New England. So this is everything on the New England side over here. So you can see rushing, they're really good. They allow the second least amount of rushing yards per game and 4 yards per carry, which is 9th best in the NFL. Passing yards, they're 17th. And then overall total yards, they allow the 8th least amount. So they are very good. On the other side here, the Giants suck. They're giving up 157 rushing yards per game, which is dead last. 5.9 yards per carry, which is dead last. 227 passing yards. And it's not that they have a decent pass defense. It's just everybody's running all over them. But overall, total yards allowed per game, 385, which ranks 30th. So we want more New England players because they're going to have the better matchup. Now, when you're over here, you're looking at if we're going to take wide receivers, tight ends. You can see here the Giants are decent versus tight end and pass-catching running backs, but not against the top 2 wide receivers. And New England, they do give up a lot to the top wide receiver for the other team. Not great against the second wide receiver, but middle of the road across the board everywhere else. So when we come down here and we look at Drake May, we can see across the board he's averaging 267 yards per game. And I like to look at his recent games. So 294, 281, 270, 259, 282. And these are decent pass defenses. So 259, 282, that's good. 220 against Tennessee, they blew him out, 31-13. So you can see he dropped here in his passing yards. He did rush for 62 yards though, so he was getting the overall yards. And then in most of these tight games here, 260, 270. So when we come over here and we look at Drake May, 260, that's very fair. When they blew out Tennessee, he put up 220. So I think 220 minus 200 is a good number. And then I love the lines here. I mean, you can even get this down. 180 is a little ridiculous, but 190 minus 550, that feels almost like a lock. 200 passing yards at 398, that's really good if you want to put it in there. But to me, if he gets to 200, he's going to get to 210 and get to 220. 230 is pretty good. And the difference between 220 and 230 is 176 to 218. I would rather just go this 218 here. And even this 286 isn't bad. So let's look at the 210 versus 220. So at 220, it puts our parlay at plus 120. And then let's just look, if we went a little bit safer at 210 in case this is a blowout, we're plus 104. So what were we before? Plus 120. I'm just going to take the 210 and slide this to plus money. So now we have Patriots, Jackson Dart, Drake May. Typically, I would go all New England here and do like Patriots money line, Henderson rushing, Drake May passing, and, get some at plus money. And that's a good, 1 or 2 unit bet. But we're just going to put in a bunch of viable options and you guys can pick whichever one you want. I'm looking over here. Let's jump over to rushing props first. So Tyrone Tracy, he's probably going to be the go-to. I mean, he's rushed 19 and 20 times in the last 2 games. Detroit and Green Bay, really good defenses, 60 and 80 yards. So yes, he's viable. I don't love it because look, Singletary's also taken 14 and 16 attempts and Dart's been out those games and it's a good rush defense. So if you want to put Tyrone Tracy in here, you can. Looking at his yards, I would probably go 30 plus. So 25 plus I love, but it's minus 730. I mean, that's going to jump us to plus 136. That's not bad, but I think it does come with some risk. But the one I'm going to go with that I love for the top play is Travion Henderson. So you can see here, he's projected for about 80 rushing yards, 79.3. His prop is 70. And then looking at these last 5 games, he's got 66, 62, 147, 55, 75. So you can see here, typically 50 to 60 yards, I would say, is a pretty safe floor. And, since he's not great, but Jets have a decent run defense. Tampa's not great. Atlanta's decent. Cleveland's decent. And in those games, he still got 62, 55, and 75. And he's going up against the worst run defense in the NFL. So I think we could safely say he'll probably get 70 at plus 108. So if you want to really drive this up, you could put that in there. And that cranks us up to plus 300. If you want to go safer, you could go 60 plus. 50 plus at minus 256 is really good. Now 40, minus 474 at 40 yards, you're paying a bunch of juice for that, but that is nearly a lock. I'd rather go up to 50 and shave 200 points off and take this at minus 256. He's done that in each of these games. He should be able to do that. So 50 plus is good, but I don't mind 60 plus, 70 plus. You want to get crazy, go 80 plus. Look at the jump there. So 70s plus 108, 10 more yards, 160, and then plus 244, plus 360 for a 100-yard game. All of these are viable depending on what you want to do, but if you want to go safe, I like 50 plus. So if the Patriots do win the game, they cover the money line, obviously. Henderson should have 50 rushing yards. Drake May should be able to squeak 200 passing yards. That's only 260 total yards. And if you want something from the other side, you can put Dart in there at 160 yards. That's a floor. And now we're up to about plus 175. Over here on receiving props, we're going to flip down here. I like looking at, so I label these wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Now, it's not necessarily, but it's kind of, those are the people that are projected the most and have the most stats in that order. But again, it's not necessarily a wide receiver 1. It could be the slot receiver or, whatnot. So you have to take a look at that. And then we have our tight ends. So Diggs, I'm a little sour on him just because he killed a huge same game parlay. He was the last one I had. I needed 25 yards. I felt that was a slam dunk. And he finished with 20, and that really was frustrating. So I'm a little sour on him. You can see he can have a big game, 9 for 111. But over here, in some of these other games, 3 catches, 5 catches. So he's a little bit risky. Wandale. So we expect New England to win the game, be able to run the ball. So that leads to Patriots money line, Travion Henderson, and then Jackson Dart throwing the ball. Now, Jackson Dart's coming off a concussion. If he gets hurt, Wandale's still going to be the wide receiver 1. And even when Dart wasn't out there, he got a ton of targets, 14 and 9 right here. Now, in this game against the Packers, he only caught 4 for 36, but they've got a really good defense. Against Detroit, he caught 9 for 156, but he was the top targeted person. And then with Dart in, these two, he got 11 and 11 targets, ended up 6 for 62, 9 for 46. So he's grabbing a ton of balls. We expect them to be down. We expect them to be throwing the ball. They should not be able to run the ball with success. So Wandale would be our other go-to. So Wandale, 60 yards, even money. 50 minus 163, I don't mind that. I love 40 at 283. Down to 25 minus 770, it's too much. But here, we're less than minus 300. We can get Wandale for 40 yards, which he could do that with 1 catch. So we like him to go with the targets there. Now, if you don't want to do the yardage because New England has a good defense, you could come down here to 4 grabs, but it's 463. So for him, I expect to go yards minus 283. You get a better line there. For Diggs, his odds are really low. 40 plus at minus 190, 25 plus at minus 528. I would probably put that in there again. So that's going to jump us 246 to 294. So we get about 50 points if you want to put him in there. Typically, it's either going to be Diggs or Henry is going to have the big game, and then Matt Collins is going to come in there with a few plays. Booty, he's had a couple big games, but he doesn't get a ton of targets. I don't really like him. Matt Collins, for some reason, I don't know why, but I just freaking love this guy. So he's got 6 targets, 5 targets, 10 targets. He doesn't turn him into a lot. 2 catches for 30, 4 for 64, 6 for 106, but he's sitting in that range. And then you can see Hunter Henry, he can go as low as 1 catch for 7 yards, 1 catch for 9 yards, or 7 for 115, 4 for 45. So he's kind of got a range. So over here where Diggs had the 2 catch for 20 yards, Henry had 7 for 115. And then we come back over here and Diggs had the 9 for 105 game, and then Henry was only 4 for 45. and vice versa. So you can see here, one of them has a decent game. Booty, I'm assuming he probably didn't play these games. Not really well, but Mac Hollins, I like. He's got this consistent chunk yardage, 28, 49, 89, 9, 106, 64, 30. Again, it's going to be a blowout, could be a blowout, so be careful putting them in there. So if you go down here to Mac Collins, I like him. 15 plus minus 480, I like that because, see, if we put in Diggs at 528, it only jumps it to 294, and we've got some risk there. We've seen Diggs not hit that. Mac Hollins to make 15 yards, I would say that is a very high probability. He can typically do that with one catch, and he's done it in every one of these games except for the game against Atlanta. But he's blowing this number out of the water. So even if you want to raise this up to, say, 25 yards, I mean, look, that's going to jump you to plus 370. So that's really going to take you up there. So if you want to go safe, I would go 15. If you want to go 25 yards, a little bit more risky, I don't mind that. And again, he could do that on one catch. So hitting 25, so he's gone over, under, over. So he's 6 out of 7 over that number, and that's going to put us at plus 370, so we like that. Hunter Henry, he's kind of the same way as Diggs. One of these guys is, going to have a big game, but if you throw a little 15 plus in there, 640, I mean, he should be able to get one catch and do that. And that gives us a pretty good jump. We go from plus 370 here, and even though this is minus 640, it jumps us to 435. So that's a pretty good jump. If you want to go to 25 yards, that's going to jump you to 525. So now we have enough legs that when we add these bigger ones, it's really increasing the value. So just for the fun of it, let's say Hunter Henry 25 yards, Mac 25 yards, Wan'Dale 40 on the other side. I'm going to leave Diggs and Booty off. And then some secondary options, these tight ends. Theo Johnson would be the other one. Looking here at his stats, he's pretty consistent. He averages 3.8 catches, so 3, 3, 7, 3, 3, 3. So receptions, 3 is about the number he's going to go to, so I'd like to look at the odds on that. And then yardage, he averages about 45 a game, 77, 36, 75, 27, 20, 66. So Theo would be kind of a secondary option. So I would go down here. So 4 catches is plus money, 3 catches is minus 217, 2 catches is minus 650. If we drop that in there, I guess that jumps us from 5 to 575. So let's do Theo Johnson, 2 catches. That's a little bit over our threshold, but I don't mind it. Also, if you wanted to do 2 catches for Mac instead of the yardage, you could do that as well. And that puts you in a good range. Over here, let's see what Theo's yardage is. So Theo, 40 yards plus 122. I love that. I mean, plus money, 77, 75, 66. So he gets it more than half the time. So plus money, that's a viable option there. 25 yards minus 180. That feels like a good price. He's been over, just under, over. So he's been over in 6 of the last 7 games, and that's only minus 182. So let's be a little safer. Let's drop it down here to 15 plus. So that's pretty much 1, maybe 2 catches, and that jumps us to 650. So we go 575 to 650 on the safe route. If you want to go the heavier route and go 25, that's going to take you to plus 800. So we're just going to go a little safer here. We're going to go 15 yards. So right now we've got Patriots money line, and then on the Patriots side, we've got Drake May for 210, Travion for 50, and then out of Drake May's 210 passing yards, Mac needs to catch 25, Henry 25. That's pretty fair and reasonable. You want to make sure your same game parlays are correlated and they're going to make sense. So Jackson Dart for 160, that's pretty fair since we think they're going to be down. His wide receiver 1 catching 40 yards is fair, and his tight end for 15 yards. So we've only got 55 yards that out of his 160 that need to go to designated players, and we've got the tight end 1, wide receiver 1. So I think this is a correlated play, and I actually like it. I think it's pretty good. Down here on our target chart, you can kind of take a look and see. So Isaiah Hodgkins, you can see we don't have game logs for him, so it just dots out. But the top 2 each week are highlighted in green. So here we can see last week it was Wan'Dale and Theo, 14 and 5. The week before, Wan'Dale got 9, and then Tyrone and Theo tied for 4. And then in week 10, Wandale got 11 targets, Theo 8 targets. And then over here, Slayton picked up 7. And then here, it was kind of a mix between Wandale, Slayton, and Theo. And then back here in week 7, Wandale and Theo. So you can kind of get an idea. Wandale is always the top target. Theo is pretty close. He's usually tied for second, tied for third, kind of right in that range. And if you want to go down here and look at the touchdowns, you can see who has scored what or how many touchdowns each week. So last week it was Hunter Henry. Then Travion had 3 in week 11. Then he had 2 in week 10. And Diggs had 1. Diggs had 1 there. Diggs had 1 there with Booty and Hunter Henry. So you can kind of get an idea of how the touchdowns are put over. So this is a good little parlay that I've put together. And you can get a 30% bonus on DK. So that would get you almost 10-1 odds. And I think this is pretty safe. But again, you can manipulate this however you need. And let me see if I've got my promo banner here on there. So yeah, we got Patriots money line, Patriots team total, 20.5 to 23.5. And how I came up with this over here on this tab, you can look over here at what the Giants are allowing: 33, 38, 34, 24, 27, 34. So they're allowing 24 plus points. And then come over here and just look at what the Patriots are scoring on this run: 42, 23, 25, 31, 32, 24, 28, 27, 26. Plus they are at home, which is even better. So 20.5 to 23.5 feels pretty good. I mean, they've scored at least 23 points in every single one of these games while they're on this current run. Plus the Giants are not good on defense. They have the second worst red zone allowed TD percentage. They're allowing 27.8 points per game. So if you don't want to take the Patriots money line, you can take that off if you're worried about the Giants coming out and squeaking in at the end or winning, or, we've seen so many crazy things. That's the fun part about football. It never goes the way you think it's going to go. And let me get down here to team totals. And then you could come down here and you could say, okay, well, instead I'm going to take, Patriots over 20.5. Well, that still puts you right up in that range. And then if they lose the game 24-21, you still win your bet. So it just depends on if you want to take their total or if you want to take their money line. So even if you want to do better than the money line was what, 360? Well, 225, what can we get for 360? So 360, we could get over 20.5. 21.5 drops it, 22.5 drops it, and then 23.5. Say if we do 23.5 and say they're going to score 24, then that puts us up to 625. So that's not bad. That's pretty fair. So just do something like this and build it up. And if you don't want to mess with Jackson Dart because he's coming off an injury, take him out there. Leave in May, leave in Henderson. Wandale is going to get the targets no matter who's under center. And then say you don't want Theo in there and you're just going to run this. I mean, this is all... See... All right, let's take Theo out. So this is literally just Patriots. So May, Travion, well, we got Wandale. So we're going to leave the receiving guy from the other side on there. And everything else is Patriots, and you're still plus 445. And so plus 445, so something like that when I always talk about percentages to win. So say... Oh, hang on. So you only need to win this 18.3% of the time to break even. So if you look at this and you like it, think of it as like an investment opportunity. So this is like an 80% return on your money almost. You're getting a lot of odds, but mix and match however you want. If you don't want to mess with these little guys like Mack and Henry, and you just want to stick with the big dogs, look, you can even get here. You just do Drake May, Henderson, and Patriots over, and you're still plus 130. I mean, you only need to win that about 45% of the time to be profitable. Some of the other things that I like that I've noticed, these head-to-head player props are fun as far as like rush yards. Like I had one yesterday. Now, it did not hit, but Jackson Smith and Njigba to lead the receiving yards. Well, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, there was no one on the other team that was even going to get close. Now with the quarterback getting hurt and the defense doing well, it didn't end up panning out, but that is good. But you can go over here to game leaders, and you can go to most receiving yards. So Wandale plus 255, Diggs plus 390, Booty I'd stay away from. Henry could get there. Mac probably not getting there. Theo's not getting there. Slayton, Tyrone. So a lot of these guys are absolutely dead. But like Wan'Dale plus 255, Diggs, Henry. Like if you put these in there, now you can really crank it up. So say Henry has this big game. Now this jumps to plus 1,400. You put a bonus on that. Now you're getting almost 20 to 1. Or Diggs. Say he catches one big ball. I don't think Diggs would win it. Wan'Dale would probably be my go-to if they're down, but that jumps it up to 750. So anyways, those are a lot of fun, and this is the prop deal I'm posting in the free group, the premium group, all that fun stuff. So good luck, have fun.